So what we are about to watch is a interview between Bill O'Reilly and Donald Trump about 7 or 8 years ago, which is running it back a bit, but it's very important given that Donald Trump is running for his second term as the United States president in 2024. So it's running it back a bit, but it gives you a lot of important information into the mindset of this individual who is very divisive, you could say. A very divisive individual, but I think this interview will give you a better insight into the way his mind works.
So another big week for the Trump administration. Judge Gorsuch, that rollout went very smoothly, I think.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
But the refugee deal, not so much.
I think it was very smooth. You had 109 people out of hundreds of thousands of travelers, and all we did was vet those people very, very carefully.
You wouldn't do anything differently if you had to do it over again?
Look, in life
some
you
of your
do
people
things.
didn't really know what the order was.
Well, that's not what General Kelly said. General Kelly, who's now Secretary Kelly, he said he totally knew, he was aware of it, and it was very smooth. It was 109 people.
Let's talk about Iran. Your assessment, do you think we're on a collision course, we being the United States, with that country?
I think it was a deal that should have never
The
been
nuke deal you're
negotiated.
talking about.
Absolutely, the deal that was made by the Obama administration. I think it's a shame that we've had a deal like that and that we had to sign a deal like that, and there was no reason to do it. And if you're going to do it, have a good deal. We gave them $1.7 billion in cash, which is unheard of, and we put the money up, and we have really nothing to show for it.
Possible you tear it up?
See
So
what
it's
happens.
possible.
I can say this. They have total disregard for our country. They are the #1 terrorist state. They're sending money all over the place and weapons, and can't do that.
Sanctions, that's how you're going to start with them.
Just started.
But you're moving a carrier, right?
I never talk about military moves. I always criticize.
See that the way he's assessing the relationship with Iran is through deals. He keeps talking about deals, agreements, deals, because that's who he is. He's a businessman, and he's not a traditional politician in any sense. He's a businessman that's going into politics. He didn't grow up in the world of politics where he comes out of college and then tries to run for council or any of that sort. He's got real life experience. He's able to assess a good deal against a bad deal very effectively, and I can say that based on how successful he is. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's a very successful man. He comes from wealth, but what he's been able to do with that wealth is tremendous. It's very rare to find a Donald Trump. It's very rare to find someone like Donald Trump and produce someone like Donald Trump if they have come from a very rich background. He has a certain level of drive that's unusual for most people born with a silver spoon. He's driven, he understands deals. Let's carry on watching.
Criticize President Obama where they'd have an announcement that they're going into Mosul or they're going to some place and they'd give the name, the date, the time. I don't believe in that.
So you're not real bullish on Iran at this point?
No, I'm not bullish. I think they have total disrespect for our country. And I understand that deal, I would have lived with it if they
Again, he's talking about deals.
said, okay, we're all together now. But it was just the opposite. It's like they're emboldened where they follow our planes, they circle our ships with their little boats, and they lost respect because they can't believe anybody could be so stupid as to make a deal like that.
You talked to Putin last week. You had a busy week last week.
I'm pretty busy. Busy week and a half.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you?
Donald Trump is always busy, by the way.
Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with him. He's a leader of his country. I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world,
Right.
major fight, that's a good thing. Will I get along with him? I have no idea.
Killer,
So I
though.
won't.
Putin's a killer.
So look at the way he's assessing the situation. Like nowadays, we have this, we're very big on cancel culture. You can see the way he assesses it is Putin is who Putin is. I respect him. Doesn't mean I like him. I don't know if we'll be able to get along, but we're going to have to work together to achieve our greater goals in this world that is constantly changing. So that's the way he's assessing it. He's saying that I respect him. He does. You can clearly see he doesn't respect the previous administration, but he respects the Russian leader for what he's achieved, and it's very interesting.
Killer. A lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent? You think our country's so innocent?
I don't know of any government leaders that are killers in America.
Take a look at what we've done to the
Yeah,
beginning.
mistakes are different
A
than...
lot of mistakes, okay, but a lot of people were killed. So a lot of
All right.
killers around, believe me.
Let's talk about Mexico.
So Bill O'Reilly is calling Putin a killer, and Donald Trump's remark is that there's a lot of killers in the White House. Now that is a bold statement to make. It's an incredible statement to make in any country. To go into, you're trying to get into power and you're saying to everyone, the people who are running this country or who have run this country and may still be in power are killers. Likelihood is that they're still in power, given that the Iraq War was only about 20 years ago. So he's going on and saying that there's a lot of killers in the White House. Who are we to cast the first stone? We have to get along with Putin now, don't we?
There was a report, you talked to President Nieto and you told him, this was the report, I want to know if this is true or not, that if his army couldn't handle the drug cartels, that U.S. Army soldiers would. Did you say that?
We have to do something about the cartels. I did talk to him about it. I want to help him with it. I think he's a very good man. We have a very good relationship, as you probably know. He seemed very willing to get help from us because...
Not a problem.
And it's a real problem for us. Don't forget, those cartels are operating in our country, and they're poisoning the youth of our country.
At this point, do you consider...
This cartel's operating in the United States. There's gangs, mafias operating throughout the United States. Now Donald Trump is saying, we don't want any of that. We want to clean up the youth. We want to make sure that our future is positive. He wants to make America great again. And he wants to be very tough on that and make sure he achieves what he wants to achieve for America.
Consider Mexico a corrupt country? Because this stuff has been going on for decades.
I love the people. I really like this administration. I think he's a good man. We get along very well. But they have problems controlling aspects of their country. There's no question about it. And I would say the drugs and the drug cartels, number one.
Have you figured out...
See, there's a lot of people saying that he doesn't like Mexicans. He says he likes Mexicans, he likes the people. He's just saying that there's problems in Mexico and those problems are leaching into the United States and he wants to deal with those problems. That's all he's saying. And I think that's quite a good thing to say.
What kind of a tariff you're going to levy on Mexico to pay for the wall?
Well, right now, it's very unfavorable. Right now, we're losing our jobs to Mexico. You look at the plants, you look at these massive plants. Now, I have to tell you, I've turned it around. You see that. Ford has been phenomenal. They canceled the plant. They're building tremendous...
Yeah, you intimidated them.
No.
They're afraid of you. You know these
I don't know if
companies.
they're afraid. No, they want to do what's right. They're going
They
to bring
want to
jobs
do what's
back.
right. Why didn't they do what was right in the past? They're afraid
Because
of
the
you.
wrong people
It's a very good question by Bill O'Reilly. Why didn't, if they want to do good things, why didn't they do it in the past?
spoke to them. But they're going to do what's right, and they're bringing jobs back to Michigan and Ohio
All right.
and Pennsylvania and all the places that have lost their jobs. So that's already happening. I think you're going to see a tremendous job growth in this country.
Let's turn to...
So his Mexican wall didn't actually get built. Maybe part of it was built. But it was, I don't know how serious he was on that. I think it was more of it's a way to get the voters to move. Like if you're saying I'm going to do something that's intangible, people don't relate. If you say I'm going to build a wall across the whole of the United States to stop illegal immigrants, to bring jobs back to the United States, people are more likely to believe in something that's physical. As they say, seeing is believing. But the wall did not get built.
Domestic policy. I just spent the week in California. As you know, they are now voting on whether they should become a sanctuary state. So California and the USA are on a collision course. How do you see it?
Well, I think it's ridiculous. Sanctuary cities, as you know, I'm very much opposed to sanctuary cities. They breed crime. There's a lot of problems. If we have to, we'll defund. We give tremendous amounts of money to California.
So you're going to defund.
California, in many ways, is out of control, as you know. Obviously, the voters agree. Otherwise, they wouldn't have voted for me.
So defunding is your weapon of choice.
Well, it's a weapon. I don't want to defund a city. I don't want to defund anybody. I want to give them the money they need to properly operate as a city or a state. If they're going to have sanctuary cities, we may have to do that. Certainly, that would be a weapon.
Is there any validity to the criticism of you that you say things you can't back up factually? And as the president, if you say, for example, that
you can't back up factually. Very interesting form of criticism based on what I've seen of Donald Trump. It's more the other way around. All the other politicians say things that they can't back up with facts. Donald Trump, he just starts ripping into people, talking about who's been funding who. Like when he had the debate with Hillary Clinton, he said that there's all these tax loopholes. I know about it, and so do you, but you don't want to close it because they're funding you to keep the loopholes open. So his debates, what I've seen, are based on facts. So it's a very interesting form of criticism here.
That there are 3 million illegal aliens who voted, and then you don't have the data to back it up. Some people are going to say,
that's an interesting point. Was there any truth to 3 million illegal immigrants, people who don't belong, but are in the United States and shouldn't have the ability to vote?
irresponsible for a president to say that. Is there any validity
Well,
to
people have come out and said I'm right. You know that.
I know, but you got to have data to back
Let me
that
just
up.
tell you. And it
Bill O'Reilly's right on that regard.
doesn't have to do with the vote, although that's the end result. It has to do with the registration. And when you look at the registration and you see dead people that have voted, when you see people that are registered in 2 states that voted in 2 states, when you see other things, when you see illegals, people that are not citizens and they're on the registration rolls. Look, Bill, we can be babies. Just take a look at the registration and we're going to do it. And I'm going to set up a commission to be headed by Vice President Mike Pence, and we're going to look at it very, very carefully.
Well, that's good. Let's get to the bottom of this. 2017, can Americans expect a tax cut?
I think so, yes, and I think before the end of the year, I would like to say yes.
Okay. Can Americans in 2017 expect a new health care plan rolled out by the Trump administration this year?
Yeah, in the process, and maybe it'll take till sometime into next year, but we are certainly going to be in the process. Very complicated. Obamacare is a disaster. You have to remember, Obamacare doesn't work. So we are putting in a wonderful plan. It's statutorily takes a while to get. We're going to be putting it in fairly soon. I think that, yes, I would like to say by the end of the year, at least the rudiments, but we should have something within the year and the following year.
All right, last question. You get 4 hours of sleep or some crazy thing like that. When your head hits the pillow, you ever say to yourself, I can't believe I'm here. I cannot believe that I am the President of the United States. When I wasn't a politician, I didn't start out this way. That wasn't my life goal. Does that ever come into your mind?
Well, I must tell you, the other day I walked into the main entrance of the White House, and I said to myself, this is sort of amazing. Or you walk into Air Force One, it's like a surreal experience in a certain way, but you have to get over it because there's so much work to be done, whether it's jobs or other nations that truly hate us. You have to get over it.
Football. How do you...
Trump's saying that, yes, it's amazing, but he quickly got over the fact because there's so much work to do. So I think it's a good sign of someone who acknowledges their level of responsibility, despite his tweets in the middle of the night or early morning, which kind of proves that he might actually have 4 hours worth of sleep, saying he'll buy countries like Greenland, etc. So yeah, he's a very interesting person. You can hear from the way he talks as well. He has a very unique type of rhetoric, very simple. Everyone can understand him. He doesn't talk a whole load of nonsense. He's very much straight to the facts. There's a lot of criticisms of Donald Trump, and you can see his intention is trying to help the United States of America. And coming from a very rich, wealthy background, how much financial gain does he have to make by being president, as opposed to someone who has come from almost nothing or just middle-class background and trying to get into presidential office? There's a big disparity, so you could see that there could be a conflict of interest between 2 presidential candidates, i.e. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. One has a whole load of money. One, I don't know how much money she has. There might be things going on behind the scenes as well. But there's a clear disparity. So one could be motivated by money, one by responsibility, as he said he quickly got over coming into the White House and going to the Air Forces. I'm not saying that politicians should have a whole load of money going into office. I'm just saying in a democratic system which is very corrupt with the impact of the pharmaceutical industry, with the military industrial complex, it's very important to not be swayed by money. And I think Donald Trump won't be led by money, but more whatever he wants to do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the 2024 presidential elections.